everyone. Welcome to our kind of messy kitchen. It's canning season, and I'm going to show you today how I can pinto beans, or any kind of dry bean that you can get from the grocery store. I adjusted the camera a little bit because I'm pretty short, so you don't need to see everything above me. So what I'm doing today is I am canning dried pinto beans that I got from Walmart. And it comes in a variety of sizes of bags, and this one was an 8-pound bag, and I'm only doing about half today. And the other half I'm going to put into Mylar bags and then seal for long-term storage. So you can do either one. And so what I'm doing today is I'm going to be canning half of the dried beans. So, and this bag, I believe, only cost me like $5 from Walmart. And this is not an advertisement for them. This is just where I got it. I don't grow pinto beans in the garden, but we do like to eat them. And it is cheaper to can them yourselves than to buy a bunch of refried beans or canned pinto beans from the grocery store. So this is definitely the way to go. Okay. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you have a canning book. This is the Blue Book Fall Canning Guide to Preserving. And you can pick this up on Amazon. I'll make sure to link it below. I've had this one for a couple years. You want to make sure you get the most updated version because they are updating the canning policies every couple of years or every 10 years. So this is the book that I like to use for dried beans. And so I already have my beans on the stove, and they've soaked, they've started cooking because sometimes that can take several hours, and we want to make this video as short as possible. You can also soak your beans overnight, the night before you can. I've done that before. I have also canned beans just dry. I don't really recommend doing that because you don't get as much of the nutritional value as you would get for soaking or pre-cooking a little before you pressure can your dried beans. So you can do any way that you want, but the safest way and the most nutritional way to can your dried beans is to soak them overnight or pre-cook them according to the Ball Book of Canning. Okay, so these jars are already clean and sterile. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to dump out the water and just set them here. I'm going to get them hot again because they're already cooled down, but I have a pot of water over here that I'll get these hot again before we can. All right. So I'm going to come in a little bit closer here so you can see the recipe that I'm using. If you want to screenshot that, I don't know if it was kind of blurry, but I will read this out to you as well. But this is the book that you want to get for canning beans or peas that are dried. So this works for kidney beans, navy beans, pinto beans. I've done all of them. I've even done black beans this way. So what you want to do is you want to get 3/4 pound dried beans. I usually do more because I can a lot. So, and we eat a lot of beans in chilies and for other dishes. So you want 3/4 pound of dried beans or peas per quart, salt, which is optional, and water. You put the beans or peas in a large saucepan, add water to cover by 2 inches. Bring beans or peas to a boil 2 minutes. Remove from heat and let beans or peas soak for 1 hour, which is, I've already done that. Drain. Cover beans or peas with cold water by 2 inches in a large sauce pot. Bring to a boil. Boil 30 minutes, stirring frequently. Pack in a large pack hot beans or peas into hot jars, leaving 1 inch of headspace. That allows it to expand while you're pressure canning. And also, you need a pressure canner if you're going to be canning low acid foods like vegetables. So that's something else that you'll want to get. I'll show you my pressure canner here in a little bit on what I use. It was really inexpensive because I have a glass cooktop, so I can't use those fancy pressure canners, which is fine. I mean, I think mine, it was on sale, so it only cost me like $60, which was great. So after you pack it into the hot jars, leave the headspace. You can add a teaspoon of salt. I don't add salt to mine. So we don't like it that way. And then you ladle the hot water that you've been using, or boiling water, over the beans or peas, leaving the 1-inch headspace. And you remove the air bubbles, which I'll show you how to do that. Adjust 2-piece caps, and you process them. So I'll go over that a little bit more, but there are a lot of canning videos out there. My favorite ones, one of my favorite ones, is from Living Traditions Homestead, and she goes into great detail on what you need to do for canning dried beans, so I'll make sure to link her video as well. I'm trying to make this as quick as possible so you guys can see the whole process done in a short amount of time. Okay, so this is my pressure canner. It's the Presto pressure canner. This one right here. And I want to say, gosh, how many quarts is this? I can't even remember. But I've had it for a little bit. It has two, you could have the option of adding another level to it. So you can have 2 levels of canning, which I like because to me then I can get more done in less amount of time. So, or the same amount of time as you would doing 1 level. So since we eat a lot of pressure canned foods, this is really an investment. I felt like it was worth it. So I did get this on sale. It was like $60. Now, with everything going on in the world, it has been hard to find canners. So be patient. Look at Walmart. Look at Amazon. Layman's out of, I want to say they're out of Midwest somewhere, Ohio. Sometimes they have pressure canners on their website. I'll make sure to link some good pressure canners below. But this is the one that I use. I really like it. And I got this, I believe, off Amazon a while ago. Okay. So these beans have been soaking. They are super hot, and I never do a big enough pot for all my beans. These are going to need to soak for a little bit longer, and then we'll get putting them into the jars. Okay, so while those beans are soaking a little bit longer, I'm going to go ahead and talk to you about how I'm going to store these dried beans for long-term storage. And I do that with oxygen absorbers and Mylar bags. So this is a Mylar bag, and I've done a video on this before on how like when I first started doing it. I haven't really done any videos since, but I have been doing long-term food storage for a couple years now in Mylar bags. And I got these in bulk off Amazon a couple years ago, and they've lasted me a really long time. These are the 1-gallon Mylar bags, and the reason why I want to use Mylar for long-term storage, and I'm talking 8-10 years long-term storage, that's how long they'll last if you do it properly in these Mylar bags. So the other item that you want to use are oxygen absorbers. So this, once you add the dried beans into the bag, you want to add the right amount of oxygen absorbers. And there is a website, U.S. Emergency Supplies, which gives you a breakdown of how many oxygen absorbers you need for the size of bag, type of bag, and what exactly you're putting in it. So right now I'm putting in dried pinto beans, which is under their dried beans category, and I'm using a 1-gallon Mylar bag. I need 400 cc's of oxygen absorbers. Now, each of my oxygen absorbers are 300s, so I need to put 2 in because you can't put less than what you're supposed to. It's better to put more than less. Okay, so I find it helpful when I'm going to be dumping dried goods into Mylar bags to put it in the bag in something, because these really flop over really easily. And so this kind of helps stabilize it while you're dumping in the items into the Mylar bag. And since I don't have a helper to record this today, I'm going to have to set the camera down and then show you after I pour it, because I am not that talented to record and pour at the same time. Okay, so I got the rest of that bag into one 1 gallon Mylar bag. And you can see they're in there. They are happy. So the next step that you want to do is you want to make sure that you get an iron, because you're going to need to seal this. But I do not like using irons. They're kind of a pain because, you know, sometimes you need to get a block of wood and you need 2 extra hands from somebody to help you hold it. So what I like to use is an old straight iron that I have for my hair. And you just seal it across the top. So I will make sure to get this heated up and I'll show you how I seal it. But before you seal it, you want to put in the oxygen absorbers. So the first thing to do is we got to get this heated up, move this over to my other station over there, and then we're going to throw these in once this is heated up, because you want to do this all really fast. You don't want to let these get oxygen into them. So to store extra oxygen absorbers, you know, these are unopened. You can see that they're still good because the eye is pink. I throw them into a canning jar with that eye that came in the package. You can't really see it right now because I just shook it, but it is pink, I did see. And you throw a canning lid on it, and then it sucks the oxygen in it out, and it keeps these good for a long time. You can keep using this because, you know, I do small batches like this. I don't use an entire pack in one sitting, so this is a good way to store your extra oxygen absorbers. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to do this with my camera and everything. Got my flat iron all the way to the highest setting, so that's getting ready to go. And then I have my oxygen absorbers ready to go. And the dried beans call, according to the website that gives you all the accurate details, we need 400 cc's of oxygen, but since I only have these 300s, I'm going to be adding 2. So it'll be a little bit more, but that's okay. More is better. All right, check this flat iron. Okay, looks good. All right, so I shook the beans down so they are all in kind of compacted down. And then I'm going to quickly open my jar, take the lid off, throw 2 in, and tighten this jar again really fast. So that way there's not a lot of oxygen getting into the jar for the other ones. Shove them down in. And closed. Alright, so I got those in. You also want to do this kind of fast. And then I kind of work from the middle out. And I go across twice. I know this is not the most flattering view of me, but I'm trying to get in the shot. But this is real life. This is how it is. It's not always flattering. Okay, so that is got the first seal. So as you can see, it works really well. And then I like to hold it for a little bit longer, about 2 to 3 seconds, just to make sure we have all of this sealed. And I will go grab, after I get this done, grab one of the things that I've done in the past so you can see what happens after you have the oxygen absorbers in there. It's pretty cool. I forgot to say at the beginning of this, if you're doing multiple things like pinto beans, black beans, navy beans, rice, make sure to label your bags, because I have seen people, you know, get a bunch of stuff sealed and they're like, wait, what was in this one? But I usually do one thing at a time. So I know this is pinto beans, so I'm going to mark this after I'm done. But sometimes it's helpful to mark the bags before you seal them. That way you know what's in it. Okay. All right. And I like to kind of push on the bag a little, just to make sure I don't hear any air coming out, but it does feel great. It feels like it's perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and grab one of my other Mylar bags that I've done in the past, and I'll show you what it looks like after 24 hours of it with those oxygen absorbers. Okay, so this is what it looks like before. You see it's kind of loose. There's space and air in there. Now if it's done, if your bag and everything is sealed properly, it should look like this when it's done. Kind of rock hard. All the oxygen is kind of sucked out of it, it seems like. Now this is jasmine rice, so it's pretty dense. It's pretty heavy. So the beans won't be this heavy, but you will be able to see the kind of outlines of little beans. So it's pretty cool. And again, this is for long-term storage, 8 to 10 years. Sometimes people have said things store up to 20 years. I've never tried that, but the reason why we do it is actually we don't usually do for, 10, 12 years. It's every couple of years, but especially right now with everything going on in the world with the coronavirus and food shortages, we feel like it's important to start squirreling away some of this stuff. Not hoard, not go buy 500 pounds of rice and then put it away. But, get a bag here or there and start putting stuff away. I mean, it's not going to hurt you to have this stuff in your pantry in a couple years. It's not going to hurt. So, but the best way to store this once the oxygen's all out of it is I like to put it in a really dark tub in my closet, like in one of my pantry closets. So then that way it's just in the tub. It's safe from critters because, mice can get through. They can chew through. Mice are jerks. But, so yeah, this is a great way to keep dried goods long term. Okay, so I have my beans in my jars. These are clean, sterile, hot jars. I'm going to see if I can grab one up. I like putting them back in the box just because it helps keep me organized while I do things. But you see here I have the beans. There's 1-inch head space, and actually a little bit more because I feel like beans expand more. So I like to give them a lot of room in there. So I have 12 pints of pinto beans in here, and I'm going to go grab the hot water to pour into each of these jars and make sure that there is 1 inch of headspace. Okay, so I move the camera a little bit closer so that way you can kind of see what I'm doing with this boiling hot water. So this is clean boiling water, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my funnel, I'm going to put it into each of these jars, and I'm going to give each of these jars 1 inch of headspace. This is a handy tool that comes sometimes with your canning kits. I like to have a couple of them on hand. They work really well. I'm just going to do that for all of these. And I've been canning for, a handful of years now. So I kind of know, like, I can eye things. I still measure just to make sure, but yeah, I'd like to, I've been able to eye things pretty well lately. But okay, so the next thing you want to do is once you get your water in there, you want to put this tool down in there to get the air bubbles out. And then I measure from the edge, and we have a perfect amount of 1 inch of headspace from the edge to the liquid. So that one's perfect. All right, I'm going to continue doing this and I'll come back and show you what the next process is. Okay, so the next thing that I do once I get all the liquid in there, I'm going to wipe the rim because we want to make sure that there's no debris to prevent the seal from the lid sealing properly to these jars. So usually with beans or, you know, less messy foods, the rims stay pretty clean, which is nice. Now jam, on the other hand, that can get messy. So you want to make sure that all of your jars are clean. And then take a clean lid, put it on, and take a ring and do it fingertip tight. And we're going to continue doing that for all of this, and we're going to get them placed in the canner. Okay, one little tip, it is always good to check your jars, your rings, and your lids for damage before canning. And I found a couple of lids. These are brand new. I do not reuse lids, but they have got damage on them. I don't know if you can see that right here. There's a nice dent on a couple of these, and you can tell that the seal is messed up. So I'm not even going to use them, not going to try. I'm just going to throw them away. We do everything following the safe canning guidelines here. So those are going to be going in the garbage. Okay, so now that I've got everything in here, my canner can hold up to 20 pints, but I only had 12, so I split them up to have 6 on the bottom, 6 on the top. So the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I close up this lid. All right, so the lid is closed. Another thing that you want to make sure is you want to make sure that you're reading the directions for your pressure canner on how you should use it. You want to make sure that you're following the cleaning guidelines, the water fill guidelines, everything to a T per the model that you have. So there on the inside there's lines, and so I filled up to the line, and then I added the bottom tray, then jars, then the secondary tray, then the secondary level of jars. So, and then I sealed it. This was cleaned before I used it, and everything should be good to go. Now we're just going to wait for it to get up to 10 pounds of pressure. Okay, so for my canner, I need to let it vent the steam out of the vent for 10 minutes. Then I need to put the weight on top of that little vent, and then the pressure will slowly build up. And once it gets to 10 pounds of pressure, then we will need to process these pints for an hour and 15 minutes. And I'm sure a lot of you are like, why? That's so long. It's so much easier just to go buy canned stuff at the grocery store. And yeah, it is. But I believe that canning food at home tastes better. I can control the amount of sodium that goes into it. I can also control the ingredients that go into it. And yeah, and in some cases it's more cost efficient. Yes, it takes sometimes all day to can things, but sometimes it's more cost efficient to can your items at home. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the camera for a little bit, set the timers, keep an eye on everything, and start to clean up, because we canned all day yesterday and our kitchen looks like a bomb went off. Hello, hello, hello. Okay. Get this adjusted. All right. So while those are pressure canning, I figured I'd just pop on here for a second. I know I'm going to get the question of, well, those beans are not organic. You didn't grow them yourself. And yeah, I know. We try and stick to being as organic and natural as possible here. But you gotta eat. And with everything going on in the world, food shortages, we've already seen a spike in meat shortages, and I'm not saying go out and get carts full of rice and beans or other things, but if there are food shortages, and you have to either choose between starving or eating pinto beans that aren't organic, you're gonna eat the pinto beans. At least I would hope. I would hope you would choose to eat than starve. But yeah, so the reason why we are canning these and also preserving them in the long-term storage for the Mylar with the Mylar bags is for long-term storage. It's a quick and easy meal, and I'd be lying to say that we're 100% natural organic here. What I like to tell people is we try to do natural and organic, but we are also just trying to do the best that we can. And that's real. I try and do the best I can. I think that there's a lot of pressure on people right now in society to be more natural, to be more organic. And I think that it's important to do that. But if you had to choose between starving or eating non-organic pinto beans, like I said, I hope you eat the pinto beans. So it is done, and the pressure has dropped all the way down. So I'm going to take the lid off and let it sit with the lid off for a little bit. You don't want any of the liquid to siphon out. So I'll flip the camera around and kind of show you what I'm doing. Okay, so I've undone a little bit here, and I'm just going to kind of crack it so that the steam can come out. Try and not burn myself because the steam gets really hot. And I'm just going to let it sit here for a little bit with it cracked, so then that way it can cool down a little bit more, because right now everything is crazy hot. All right, 12 pints of pinto beans out of the pressure canner, and I can tell that we may have had some liquid siphon out because there's a little bit of browning on some of the lids, and so I think a couple that were up above siphoned out and dripped down onto the lower ones, because I'm just seeing it on a couple of the lower ones. But all in all, everything looks really great. We're going to sit here and wait for them to ping. And when you remove canned goods from the canner, pressure or water bath, you don't want to set it directly on the countertop. These items are extremely hot, and if you were to put this on the cool countertop, these could crack and break. So what I like to do is I like to get a cookie cooling rack and then cover it with a towel, and then set the jars on that rack and that towel just to kind of lift it a little further off the counter, let some airflow underneath it so these can cool down a little bit faster. And then once these have set
here for about 12 to 24 hours. Oh. Okay. So as I was saying, once these have set here and I don't touch them, oh, there's a ping, for 12 to 24 hours, then you want to take the rings off, write on the lids what it is, the date that you process them, and then you can put them away in your pantry. I do not store items with the ring on. It's not a safe way to keep your canned goods because you don't know if any of these have created a false seal, and you don't want any kind of bad bacteria or botulism growing in your can of beans, and you go and eat them in a year and this has been open the entire time. You could get really, really sick. So you really need to be careful and follow the rules and guidelines when you can foods. So I know this kind of was an all over the place video, but life is chaotic, and this is sometimes how I get my processing of food done, is kind of in chaos. But it works. I've got 12 pints of pinto beans to put up in the pantry, and we like using pinto beans. We make homemade refried beans. We like putting these into soups or chilies and using them in homemade burritos. So we like beans here. You know, we were just talking about this the other day. Our top 3 canned items that we use here are tomatoes, jam, and different kinds of beans because we use them a lot in cooking. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's kind of all over the place, but it's life and it's real. And make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And if you are new to canning, leave me a comment if you have any questions, or if you're a veteran canner, feel free to, throw some advice out for people. Yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will be shooting a garden tour later this week. Every day that I've wanted to do it on the weekends, it has been raining, and I don't want to take my camera out there. So hopefully it looks like it's going to be nice later this week, so I can take you on a garden tour. A lot has changed over the couple of weeks, so stay tuned for that. All right, talk to you later. Oh, ping. All right, bye.